Hey guys, it's your girl AFM Stories and you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. And today I'm going to be talking to you about how to choose your student accommodation. So I'm going to be talking about the things you need to consider before you pick your student accommodation. So as you already know, or maybe you don't know, but I'm just going to inform you that be wary of signing contracts in a haste, because once you signed your student accommodation contract, it might be very difficult for you. It's not even very difficult. You are bound by the contract and you cannot leave the accommodation except you get a suitable replacement. I have a friend that booked an accommodation and now she doesn't want to stay in the accommodation again because she wants to stay somewhere else, but she's bound by the accommodation and now she's looking for someone who can get that accommodation. Do you know how difficult it is to get someone new, especially if you don't have anybody in your network, willing to get that accommodation? Because if you don't even want to stay there, it means that people in your network might not also want to stay there. So to prevent yourself from making such a decision that you regret later, I've created this video to guide you on some of the things that you need to consider. Before I move forward, please hit the like button, please subscribe to my channel, and drop a comment as this video goes on, on what you think about the content. If you have any video requests or any tips that you need from me, so let's go straight into the video. So the first thing I'll say you should consider, to be honest, is the cost of the accommodation, because one of the things that is very stressful for students is spending a lot of their allowance, spending a lot of their money. If you're a scholar, spending a lot of your stipend on an accommodation, like, it's the worst feeling ever. And trust me, you don't want to do that. So my advice for you first is try to get the best possible deal at the cheapest possible price. So I would say that try to get affordable accommodation. So there are different things that can make your accommodation expensive. It could be the location, it could be the facilities in the accommodation. Are there facilities that maybe you don't really need? It could also be the size. So studios are technically more expensive than ensuite rooms or shared rooms. If you're confused about what I mean by studio, ensuite, or shared rooms, I have a video on what the different room terms and room types are. So if you want to learn about that, check the description box below where I differentiate between studio, ensuite, and non-ensuite. But anyways, so yeah, studios cost more money, so some particular rooms cost more money as well. So basically you need to consider the cost. Is this the best possible deal? And that's why you need to search as much as you can for the right accommodation. I also have a video about how to find accommodation. I'll say check a lot before you just choose one, because my current accommodation, I'm paying a good reasonable amount for my ensuite room, but I later found out that the amount I'm paying is what some people are paying for a studio in the same city. So that's why I'm saying that be sure that you're getting the best deal for your cost, and the only way you can do that is to search. The next thing you also want to consider before you pay for the accommodation is, are all bills included in the cost? Like, one of the worst things is to go for somewhere that seems cheap, but then you have to pay for things. So pay for things like lights, pay for things like data, eating, gas, and all sorts of things. That's like one of the worst things ever, because if you're the one paying for it, those things can go up a lot. It can add £200, £300 to your fees, and it's one of the worst feelings ever. So ensure that it's clearly stated that all bills are included. So that's from your kitchen equipment to your eating equipment and Wi-Fi and everything. Do not go for an accommodation that the bills are not included, except maybe that I wouldn't even advise personally, and that's my own personal advice. Go for all bills included. So yeah. The third thing you also want to consider is the location. So obviously it's a student accommodation, or you're a student looking for a student accommodation, which means your degree is a very important thing to you. So you don't want to pick an accommodation that is in the middle of nowhere, it's extremely far from school. You have to pay a lot of money on transport to school, which will actually increase the bills, because if you go look for somewhere cheap and then you're paying a lot for traveling to school, it's quite pointless. Also, you also want that convenience of being able to leave your room and walk to school. You also want that convenience of it being close to city center. You also want the convenience of it being close to a supermarket, because obviously you don't want to go travel far distances or have to take a cab to get to a supermarket. And not just any supermarket. If you want it to be close to the major and cheap supermarkets like Aldi and Lidl, you know, not just regular corner shops. Though those can be useful for like very basic things like maybe drinks and stuff, but for your real shopping, you don't want to pick an accommodation that you have to travel far distances to get those things. And how do you find out? By checking supermarkets near the accommodation. Try your map providing services. Search for, you know, the things that are around that accommodation as well, because you don't want to pick somewhere that is literally far. Like, it's the worst feeling ever. Like for me, one of the mistakes I made was my accommodation is about 30 minutes to my school, 30 minutes walk, literally 30 minutes walk. So like, I'm just imagining if there wasn't a pandemic, would I have been walking 30 minutes to school? Would I have been taking £2 bus to school like every day? You know, now because it's a pandemic, and most times when I go to school, it's not because of the library. I go for the library, so I can afford to walk 30 minutes because I'm not bothered. So I walk to and fro because obviously I'm trying to be fit and all of that. Though if it's cheaper and you're someone that likes walking, not everybody can walk 30 minutes like I do. So you want to be sure. I advise that you pick somewhere that is nothing more than 10 minutes walk or maximum of 15 minutes walk. You know, you want somewhere close to school, because on rainy days or on days where you're not motivated, that 30 minutes can be very stressful. Like sometimes I think about the 30 minutes walk and I'm like, nah, I don't have time for this. That's also something that you should really consider. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention as well, okay, beyond just even it being close to supermarkets and things like that, you also want to pick an accommodation that is close to bus stops and bus stations. Because if you're someone that wants to travel around and tour the UK, you want somewhere that is close and you don't have to pay for bills, basically. So yeah, pay for high transportation cost bills and all of that. Also, what is the size of the accommodation? How big is it? Because some accommodations are really small, guys, and you will be pained when you see some other big accommodations. So compare and contrast the sizes of the accommodation, the sizes of the bed, the sizes of the rooms. It's very important, especially if you're going for a studio. You don't want to pick a studio that is really small because you're going to be very frustrated. You're going to feel claustrophobic, basically. So you want to pick a studio that is big, and even for rooms that are big. So ensure you're getting the best deal on the size of the room. Another thing you should also consider if you're in a shared flat or shared apartment, even if it's an ensuite, is how many people are you living with. So one trick I like to tell people is, yeah, flats that have a higher number of people sharing a kitchen with you tend to be cheaper, but they won't tell you. And the flats that have less amount of people sharing the kitchen with you tend to be more expensive, and it could be in the same accommodation. Because in my current accommodation, I'm paying less than my friend is paying, and our rooms are the same size. The only difference is she has 3 people in her flat and I have 5 people in my flat. So you're paying a lot more money. It was about £100 difference just because of 2 extra people. Like, if you can deal with 3 people, like, you should be able to deal with 5 people in a shared kitchen, not a shared bathroom, because that's another thing. I would not advise that 5 people share a bathroom or 6 people share a bathroom. Don't have heard of people doing things like that, but imagine situations of when somebody is pressed or the other person is pressed, 6 people sharing one bathroom. If it's 6 people to 2 bathrooms, yeah, that makes more sense. But 6 people to 1 bathroom, yeah. Think about the number of people that you're sharing the flat with. I would say a sweet spot is 4 people. Yeah. But for ensuite, I dealt with 5 people fine. So as long as you have your own bathroom, yeah. But then if you're sharing your flat, you have to really be sure that you can deal with sharing bathrooms with 6 people, because it increases the likelihood of drama and all of that. Another thing you also want to consider is the contract length. A lot of people don't even think about when their stuff is finishing. So for me, I was very lucky to have picked an accommodation that is finishing in August, though it's still even early because my master's course is ending in September, but it still gave me a lot of time to be able to spend more time learning without worrying about where to stay. I have friends that the accommodation finished first week in July, first week in June or ending of June. So I had like extra 8 weeks or 6 weeks, which you will really come in handy during the ending part of your course, especially if you're someone that an international student, you don't really have somewhere to stay, because where will you stay when standard university accommodations finish in July? Would you be homeless? Would you start looking for somewhere new? So it's always good to have a buffer place that gives you time to even search or look for a new place. And if you're a master's student, you want to have a place that allows you enough time to be able to find somewhere else to move to and all of that. So think about the contract length as well. Also, what facilities are available in the accommodation? So a lot of accommodations, some accommodations come with free gym, which can be very useful if you're someone that is passionate about, you know, your health and all of that. And then a lot of accommodations, some you have to pay for the laundry facilities, like pay for each time you wash your clothes, and then some you don't have to pay. My accommodation, I don't pay for laundry. My laundry is in my kitchen. That saves me extra money that is not necessary. So what are the eating charges? Like I said, what are the other things you have to pay for? What are people saying about the accommodation online? So one thing I always advise people is try and search for students that are currently in the accommodation. What are they written about online? So search for reviews of that accommodation online. Speak to students in the school, in student groups. Though I would say, yes, speak to student ambassadors, but obviously I'll say speak to regular students as well. Reach out to them online. Ask them about the school, ask them about the accommodation, what do they think about it, or just even check student review websites online on accommodation. For my accommodation, I read reviews and I saw that, okay, there are issues with socialization in terms of a lack of a common area. So, and for me, that was really, really frustrating, you know, but I dealt with it, you know. I wasn't really bothered because I knew that I was in an ensuite room and I was going to share the room. I was in an ensuite room, but I was going to share my kitchen with other people, so I knew that I still had opportunities to be social and all of that. But it was good for me to know that, okay, there is no common room, there's no gym room, so do I want to compromise on that? Because there are many things you might not even think about, but then when you see reviews of people that have been there and the struggles that they had with it, then you'll be like, okay, can I really deal with this? You know, so read reviews online, speak to students before you book the accommodation. Also, what are the accommodation rules? So a lot of accommodations don't allow you to have friends over. Some don't allow you to let people sleep over. Some might not even allow you to have parties. So you want to be sure that the accommodation that you are booking, the landlord or the hall or provider can allow you to do the things that you want to do. If you're a smoker, would they allow you to smoke? So you need to be sure of what the rules of the accommodation are. What exactly do they allow? What are their rules and regulations? Can you really deal with them? For me, I can't deal in an accommodation that I can't have friends over for long periods of time. I can't do an accommodation that we can't have parties, even though I'm not really a party person, but I can't just deal with things that are too rigid. So you want to be sure that, okay, they allow you opportunities to socialize and have fun and all of that. I also say that what is the cleaning policy in the accommodation? So if it's a shared accommodation in terms of you sharing a bathroom and toilet, do they clean the common sharing area? I would say that you go for somewhere that they clean the common sharing area. So that's the bathroom and toilet, because when you're sharing bathroom and toilet, you want to be sure that it's well cleaned. And you can't really trust people to clean it to your standard. But when they have professionals cleaning it weekly, it kind of makes your life easy. So if you're going for a shared room, a room where you share the bathroom and toilet, ensure that you pick one that it's the provider cleans it as opposed to you guys cleaning it. But obviously when you have an ensuite, you might have to clean your kitchen yourself, which is still fine and you can still deal with that. But having to force people to clean bathroom and toilet will not be the most exciting thing, trust me. Also, what is the payment structure? Have you read the payment structure in the contract? So can you pay weekly? Can you pay a lump sum? Obviously, if you can't pay a lump sum, then don't go for accommodations that don't have a flexible payment structure. Would they allow you to pay multiple times? Would they allow you to pay weekly or monthly? You want to pick somewhere that allows you to do that, because once you sign that contract, you'll have to pay by the time that they tell you to pay. So read thoroughly the payment structure. For me, I didn't read mine thoroughly enough because I thought I was paying every month. It was after I started paying I realized, oh, it wasn't every month. It was I think It's not me to pay 10 times, because I came to my accommodation in January and I'm leaving in August. But I was supposed to pay, I think, 8 times, but I ended up paying 5 times, yeah, or 6 times. I had to pay more than what was advertised, but then I ended up paying the entire thing quicker and faster. So as at June, July, I didn't really have anything else paying again, so I had enough money that I could save and all of that. But you want to be sure that you can afford to pay more funds over time as well. So yeah, that's very important for you. I would also say that another factor is, have you checked the accommodation? So beyond all the amazing things you have in the accommodation, so checking whether they have storage area, checking whether things are working, you want to be able to see the accommodation that you're going into. So how exactly does it look like? Because most times they pick the best pictures, they promote it in the right light, but you want to be sure that what you see is actually what you're really getting. So you have multiple options for this. One of the options literally is to visit the accommodation. So maybe you book an Airbnb in the area and then you go check out the accommodation before you book. So you will have checked out a couple of accommodation and then you book a viewing time for all of them, and then you schedule them around the same period. You book an Airbnb and then you go there, you check different accommodation, because seeing is believing. But then if you're an international student, obviously, and you don't really have that option, which I still believe is the best option, you can consider virtual viewing. So do a video call with them and, you know, see the accommodation on video, exactly the room you're supposed to stay. And that's what I did. So obviously I couldn't get an Airbnb, but I was in another city at the time. So what I did was a video call for them to show me how my room looked like. Live video call, not a video that is sent to you, but a live video call. And I was able to see the accommodation and everything that I had. And yeah, that was fine. So please check it. So I hope that these points are very useful. If I missed any points, you can drop them in the comment section. If you have any further questions about booking accommodation, please let me know. Ask in the comments and I will be happy to answer them. Also, if you have a video request for me, I am happy to answer your questions, you know, do more videos. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, drop a comment, subscribe to my channel. Yeah, bye.